friend of mine wrote this piece about me. I want to make it maybe or turn it into the forward for my book because, like I said, I think everyone deserves to be heard. Again, let me address this. We have a very powerful vehicle in the form of Facebook and all of the gatekeepers of it. Those gatekeepers work tirelessly removing foolishness from the vehicle because sometimes the vehicle gets a little bit of toxic activity, things that our children shouldn't look at, things that we shouldn't put on there. I know when I first started, I didn't know a thing about Facebook, and I still don't really understand the half of it. But I know you have to be careful when you go clicking for friends because some friends on your timeline may not be the kind of activity you consider friendly. So if you see it, then what do? I don't want my daughter looking at any foolishness. A lot of things that we don't want to see on Facebook. So be careful when you pick your friends. Just be careful. I uh, I feel like, and for women, men too, women, if you want to respect yourselves and set an example of why women should be respected, then your conduct on there, for a lot of you, a lot of us, men as well, we have to take time to think about, do we really want certain behaviors exposed? Because you don't want the world to follow in something that's not fit for your own child to even watch. Your own child. And we have this vehicle and it's afforded to every one of us. And so who's gonna watch it, you know, who's gonna take care of it when the gatekeepers can't keep up? So anyway, here is something that I wrote. No, that was written about me that I'm gonna write in to the forward for my poetry book because I'm gonna try to write a book in honor of a promise I made to my grandmother. I don't know why I make promises I can't keep, but I'm gonna keep this one. I'm gonna have to keep it. I made a promise to her, and I love my grandmother. I went crazy when she passed away and ended up in a mental institution in 2006. I couldn't handle that pain. I was raised by three women: my grandmother, my sister, and my mom. Or, for lack of a good order, my grandmother, my mother, and my sister. Yeah. So I witnessed two grandmas die because my great great grandmother, I witnessed her death. And back in Central America, to me, that was very horrifying to see someone you love pass away. They couldn't find me after the funeral. They literally had to go back to the graveyard and they found me asleep on her grave where I've been trying to dig it up because I just didn't want to let go. And I was trying to bring her back home, but I fell asleep. And that's where my grandmother found me. So, yeah, I love all people. Like I said, I'm a people person. But be very careful in conduct because conduct is everything. And a lot of times in the world we live in, they say that your first impression might just be your last. So, what impression do you want to leave for your children? And you never know. Your child can run for office one day, and the photography of his mother or his father might pop up in a very, you know, scrutinized way that might nullify, you know, him being the next president or the next, you know, chief justice or the next, you know, director of the FBI, the next CEO of Facebook, the next CEO of Google, or, the next CEO of, who knows? Who knows? So just be careful, that's all I say, because I truly believe in first impressions being your last. And so my friend Mike Penicetti, an Italian guy, who was attending UC Berkeley, and I guess someone dropped 4 hits of acid or something on him. They did something to him, and he ended up in the hospital. Very, very intelligent. One sentence away from his dissertation, and in cultural anthropology. Cultural anthropology. One sentence away from his dissertation. Can you imagine? And I had him as a roommate for like a whole year. in the hospital. But yeah, so this is what he wrote. He said, I met Arnold Eden while serving an NGI sentence, not guilty by reason of insanity at Metropolitan State Hospital in Norwalk, California. His book will attest to the common understandings that creativity and insanity are not far apart, and insanity is often the fertile ground from which genius springs. Arnold and I first became acquainted on Unit 401, where he, Philip Z., another allegedly insane associate, and I would stay up late nights squeezed into a bathroom stall smoking cigarettes while discussing a wide range of ideas, themes, and topics. I was struck by Arnold's intelligence, his charisma, and by the fact that in addition to having one foot planted in Black American urban culture, he was also like me, the son of Latin immigrants who had come to the United States to make a better life for themselves and their children. I think Arnold may have really become convinced that I was a kindred spirit after I was transferred off the unit for antagonizing certain patients, the very same patients whom he had found annoying. We met up again several months later on another unit where we became roommates, and I picked up where we had left off, having great experiences of our families. Our talks ranged from the experiences of our families to President Obama's struggle to avert America's decline, from the difficulties of coming up as a black man or any other minority in America, to extraterrestrials, politics, philosophy, internet, world history, pop culture, sports, or any other category of knowledge you might find on Jeopardy, which we watch avidly every night it was on. We come from two very different educational backgrounds. I was a dropout from UC Berkeley PhD program in cultural anthropology. Although Arnold had never graduated from high school, he was very well versed in the game of knowledge. His strong intelligence and intellectual curiosity was doubtlessly inherited and learned from his family, particularly his uncle, Sabi Alfredo Bowman, the well-known herbologist, holistic healer, and the founder of Usha Herbal Institute. Although I had spent close to 10 years pursuing a university education, Arnold had experienced his own education being schooled in what Jay-Z has called the hard knock life. In his late childhood, he was what some social conservatives call a delinquent. In his early adulthood, he was a bona fide hustler. Most significantly, Arnold had spent close to 2 decades doing time in the California Department of Corrections. His most terrifying and memorable experience was his time spent at Pelican Bay State Prison, a notoriously violent facility. There he fell in with black nationalists, primarily in order to survive this difficult environment. As a result, he became schooled in a particular branch of what many college professors called deconstruction, the philosophical discipline of questioning established scientific and cultural authorities, in particular, the authority of dominant white Anglo-Saxon Protestant societies. I continued my own schooling while confined at Metro. Arnold taught me the basics of universal wisdom and about the complacency, accepted deceptions that keep so many blacks and other people of color downtrodden and exploited. Arnold's education continued to evolve while he was locked up at Metro. I remember seeing him in the visiting room one day and noticing a jagged pattern of scars on his neck, which were in the process of healing. I found out that while we had been on separate units, he had tried to commit suicide. When he arrived on Unit 403, he informed me about the life-changing event. I don't remember exactly when I witnessed Arnold write his first poem, but I recall one night that I dreamed he was absorbed in writing, and shortly afterward, in real life, I watched him take off in his poetry with lightning speed, never looking back. He wrote about knowledge, wisdom, and understanding, about the sanctity of family, the role and the role and influence of inspirational women, the symbolism of animals he had inked onto his body. He wrote about the very real possibility of nuclear catastrophe. He poetically philosophized about jealousy, the journey of life, mysteries of the mind. He personified the art of dreaming. He wrote in free verse, in Italian and Shakespearean sonnet, in haiku. In the end, he just wrote. Like slam poet J. Ivy, Arnold Eden just needed to write. He began to live, eat, breathe, and shit poetry. In short, I witnessed the transformation of my good friend from just another sad statistic into a poet, what Mos Def calls a deaf poet at that. The reactions to his transformations were varied. There were skeptics and scoffers, but as the sonnet with that title in this collection makes clear, Arnold endured the negativity. He weathered the storm of hate that would seemingly creep forth from most unsuspecting places. The true turning point in this poet's story came in December of 2010, when Arnold took what he called a shot in the dark and mailed 4 of his free-verse poems to the residence of Barack Obama at the White House in Washington, D.C. He sent Celestial Family in honor of the president, his beautiful wife, and their 2 lovely daughters. From sunrise to sunset, a meditation on the splendor of freedom and the spleen of captivity. So you want to blame me, which was a diatribe against the true culprit behind the nation's economic woes. And finally, he sent Eagle, a magnificently moving poem. We both contemplated the potential honor of having Eagle posted prominently somewhere in or near the Oval Office. Arnold's aspirations didn't end there, however. He also wrote to Oprah Winfrey, another long shot. He realized, but nevertheless, hoping to get any acknowledgement or encouragement from this eminently influential and powerful woman. I have had the honor of watching I have had the power of watching Arnold Eden's metamorphosis into a full-fledged poet throughout the better part of 2010. In the introduction that follows, Arnold himself will tell all